Okay, any questions?
Any tips on like sand dunes, drifting sand?
Yes.
Like that?
I used to live at the beach, and so I thought, hey, cool, I'll pick up a bunch of beach sand and put that on my ground cover. And unfortunately, it's out of scale. It looks like gravel, because like so each particle of beach sand in scale, it looks like it's about that big. Like you're standing on a field of marbles or something.
I used to live back east, and on the Jersey Shore, on the southern Jersey Shore, Wildwood, and a couple of places like that, the sand is almost like talcum powder.
Yeah.
And yet you get north toward New York City, and the sand gets very coarse, just like the sand we have out here.
Yeah. There's a model railroader product that was sand. They make lots of granular things. They call them ballast, where you can use them in between the rails of the track or the railroad ties, and it's supposed to look like whatever they made their ballast out of. In the Northeast, it would have been coal, and in the West, it would have been kind of ground up red rocks and things. And they made something that was very white, and they called it sand, and it was very fine, and it worked in scale. But I haven't been able to find it lately. So what I would do for sand is I would attach some very fine dirt and then paint it white, and off-white and things like that. Yeah, I've done that. It was the movie Troy. Elite made a Achilles figure. And I put him running up a beach with arrows stuck in it. But it was basically pink. I mean, once you get back into the dunes and stuff like that, you can have some detailed little sand dune plants and things like that here and there. It doesn't have to be like a continuous sand color. But real sand out here, I don't think really works very well.
I don't know whether maybe if you went up around Pismo Beach, where the beach is quite shallow, where you could find finer sand there. I mean, again, going back to the East Coast, the southern New Jersey beaches are very, very shallow. You can go out 100 yards and be only, up to your knees in the water. But in northern, the beaches are much steeper, very much like they are out here. And I think you get that wash, and you leave the heavier sand and the lighter sand. It keeps.
Well, in the Caribbean, you have very white sand.
Oh yeah,
and it is very powdery.
That's why I was wondering about the snow, because it's almost could look like a dune if you.
Yeah, it could, but you can't paint it though.
Carson, would you talk a little bit about how you paint your figure in relationship to the base? I mean, do you put it on the base while you're painting it, or do you paint it separately?
Yeah.
Build the base and then put them together?
Yeah, I do. I always make, when I get a figure, I make a temporary painting base for the figure with just a piece of wood. It's like a little scrap of wood. And then I put metal pins in the shoes of the figure, and then I stand it up temporarily without gluing it to a block of wood. And that's how and then I totally paint that figure, and I totally make it matte finish or shiny or whatever I want to do. And I make the ground covers separately. Now, when I put the Magic Sculpt on there, most figures have a lot of figures, they've got like a tab underneath the shoe that sticks down, so you can make an impression where you want the figure to go. And if you are methodical enough and practical enough, before you start painting your figure, you can put the epoxy putty on the final base and make your impression where you want the feet to go first, and then you mask off and paint the base completely separately. from the figure. That's ideal.
Do you ever use the base that comes with it?
I often do. Yes, I often do.
You
This guy came with some rocks that were part of the kit. And yeah, they frequently do that. This guy might have had a couple of rocks. So the way I do that is at the stage where I'm making my contours with Magic Sculpt, I will attach the metal base for the figure to that. And then I'll build the ground cover and things and fill it in and paint it and add leaves and grass and dirt texture and all that stuff. I'll just build that around the metal rocks that came with the figure.
Now your figure's epoxy then onto the base when you're done, or?
Yeah, I use 5-minute epoxy, and I drill my holes and I dry fit it, you know, the figure. I make sure that I wrap the figure in, well, I don't do that anymore. I used to wrap them in a piece of Kleenex so I should never touch the paint. But I like these nitrile gloves that you can buy. So I'll just put on a rubber nitrile glove and then I'll place the figure, dry fit, make sure the hole, but I don't have to use pressure to force it in there. The worst thing that can happen is I'll have the holes for the figure and the figure pins to slide right into, and so I'll put some kind of glue on in that hole, and the pin won't go all the way down, or, you know, I'm doomed if that ever happens. So I make sure that the hole has plenty of, it's an easy fit, you know. And 5-minute epoxy has some
takes
body
up the,
to it. It's got
the,
viscosity, so it's not going to go anywhere. It's going to be a very strong bond. So yeah, it's meticulous, but I think that's the only way to do it. Now I've done something, you know, like afterwards, if I want to do some small touch-ups, metal highlights and things like that, I can hold it this way after I've done the ground cover, and then go back and touch up a couple of things here and there. But you know, I don't want to get any paint where I don't want it to go. I don't want any colors from the ground getting onto the colors of the figure. Starting to look like snow yet? I don't think blowing on it's going to help.
You use the white primer mainly just to get a uniform surface to do your final painting? I mean,
I do, yeah.
I mean, you use white instead of, say, a gray.